the second point around like rules was talking to Hazel about this idea of buying a principal place of residency. And it came back to a concept that you and I have talked about personally quite a bit, which was like 20 or 25% of your overall net wealth should not be, more than 20 or 25% of your net wealth should not be in your
We've got to say
personal place
that's
of
our
residence.
opinion, right?
No, that's why I said you and
I.
I, Shem. So when you and I talk about this, and again, you're right, not financial advice, and I'm hoping I'm not bringing this up as it is, one of the ratios that I really look at is going, well, if I want to buy $1 million property, I need to have at least $4 million in investment properties in order to actually say that is a viable approach for the place that I live in, to make sure that I don't have too much house, as we talked to. And so that was one of the ratios.
A surprisingly good rule, I will say. It's worked for me numerously, the idea in that.
Well, and it's actually really interesting because it, for Hazel and I, has put such strict buffers where it's just like, great, well, you want a $2 million house, Charlie? We get $8 million worth of investment properties.
I feel like we should explain the rule a little bit here.
Let's do it.
For those listening in that haven't heard this concept before, which is likely considering we've never spoken about it before on this podcast.
Behind closed doors, Charlie. Sorry.
Yeah. At one point, I was really struck with the idea of having too much house. Now, full transparency is that I've seen family members of mine buy way too much house, and then it ends up being the thing that actually holds them back in a big way, not just from investing, but life.
Yeah.
Like they are slaves to their mortgage. And it begs the question, what's the right amount of house? Now, the rule I came up with at the time was I think I started it at about 30%, so that your home shouldn't be the one you live in, be more than 30% of your net worth. And the idea being because it just doesn't have compounding working for you in the right way. So if you have a house worth, let's say $1 million and you have $3 million worth of investment property, so that's 4 in total, right? You're well within that range. And then all the assets outside of your home are compounding in a way where you achieve that financial independence. Where if you only have assets in your home, you might actually achieve financial independence on paper, but there's no asset producing any cash or ability to sell that into a life you would potentially want to live. Because you have to sell your house to hit financial independence.
Totally.
Well, now you don't have somewhere to live. So it's not necessarily a way to do that. I hadn't heard anyone else speak about it or even think about it in those terms, but I have noticed it's been particularly helpful for me in stopping me from doing dumb things of just like, well, I'm going to go buy a $3.5 million house right now, which at numerous times I've been close to talking myself into.
The interesting thing, like, when I extended on the back of this, of just going, okay, well, how do I validate this? Because I came and I said, well, the better approach, Charlie, is just to make your PPR an investment property and just go and live where it's going to get better returns as if it was an investment property. And it's so funny how few people would actually do that. So
yeah, dude, what about being near family, school zones, like all the things that are important for quality of life?
So Hazel and I looked and we like looking at our investment portfolio and I was just like, would you want to live in any? And there were some that we're fine with living in. And I'm like, but it's just so far away from everybody else. I'm like, so the rule, like the extrapolated approach to the rule for me is like, if you have a PPR, you're lying to yourself when you're trying to convince yourself that it's an investment grade asset. Like anyone who buys a house is buying on emotion. You're like, I like the kitchen. I like how it's close to these schools because I want to take my kids to the school. I like all these things. That is an emotional purchase, not an investment purchase.
I think it's the worst idea to try and make your PPR a good investment. I
Totally.
think separating the two, like live in the PPR you want to live in.
And that was the biggest value point, which is like, well, if you're trying to dance on the line of is it an investment grade, is it an emotional purchase, you're going to disappoint yourself because you just lie to yourself to convince you that it is an investment as opposed to just going, no, I'll just buy a house I like to live in, which is why I love the 1 to 4 rule of going and apply it to yourself. It doesn't really matter. Make it a 1 to 3, make it a 1 to 10 for like, it's more the approach of understanding based on the compounding growth that you have in an asset or an investment portfolio compared to something that's not designed to create some kind of return or be some kind of investment vehicle. It's designed to live in.
I love the mindset of I'm going to build my financial independence outside the PPR. I'm not going to rely on that or count on it in any way, shape or form, just like I'm not going to rely or count on our government to look after me.
Yep.
And if you take that view into it, I think your chances of being more successful and approaching investing in the right way are really powerful. But just bringing this one back down to rules, I think it's really important to develop a set of rules for yourself.
All right, fellow property investor, if you loved the value from this short video and wanted to know more about how you can win at property investing, check out the full episode by clicking the link on your screen or in the description right now. Alternatively, click subscribe and you'll never miss another one of these videos.